Moving on to the Department of Transportation, which is the 5th largest IT budget of the civilian agencies, and it does have also one of the highest proportions of DME funding year over year. Now, obviously the FAA, real agency to watch here, 87% of the total IT budget, and close to half of what it asked for, $3.13 billion, is slated for DME spending. It's primarily due to the Next Generation Air Transportation System, or as I'm sure most of you know it by NextGen, which we're going to talk about a little more in a bit, although it is worth mentioning now that we're hearing that a lot of that DME funding is actually earmarked for sustainment activities on existing NextGen programs. They're a little bit ahead of schedule here, effectively. The main takeaways here are that the FAA accounts for the majority of DOT's IT budget, and there is a considerable amount of DME spending planned to continue development of existing next-gen systems.
So here's the overall organizational structure of the department. Offices are broken out into headquarters functions and sub-agencies. Obviously, the FAA, but you also have the Federal Highway Administration, the National Health and, I believe, Transportation Safety Administration, and so on and so forth. Anthony Fox is the current Secretary of Transportation, and the OCIO is really the key office to keep in mind if you're looking to sell up at the headquarters level. Now, the OCIO is broken out into 4 sub-offices, and I believe the current Chief Information Officer is Richard McKinney. We're also hearing some noise that DOT sub-agencies other than the FAA are really starting to look at the amount of services contracts that they're issuing and are really trying to cut what they're already engaged into. So they really want to start tamping down on service contracts, and as a result, this could open up prime opportunity here because as they lose bodies in those seats, they're going to need tools and technologies that are going to help them do their job more effectively. And it's certainly more cost effective to look at new solutions than putting new bodies in new seats.
We're going to move into a couple FAA groups since they're really the major target here, starting with the Office of Information Services, which is effectively the OCIO at FAA. It's housed under the Office for Finance and Management, currently headed up by Tina Amorine, and she acts here as both the CIO and the Deputy Assistant Administrator for Information Services. And next up is the overall organizational landscape for the Assistant Administrator for NextGen, or ANG. This group is currently headed by Edward Bolton, and he's ultimately responsible for all of the aspects of NextGen design, integration, and deployment. And before we move on, I do want to mention here that, again, there are some rumors that this group may either be reorganized or dissolved entirely, with its functions rolled up into other FAA offices.
And as you can see, some of the usual suspects top the list for DOT top contractors. So we'll look at a couple of the vehicles. EFAST MOA is probably the most popular contract vehicle that the agency is using to purchase its IT products. There are also 2 other programs that are probably of note. The Transportation Information Project Support is one contract. The other is the En route Technical Assistance Support Services, or ETAS contract. Both of those look to acquire significant amounts of IT products.
I want to take a couple minutes here to talk about some of the major trends and drivers at DOT. The department is really looking to foster innovation, both across the enterprise and more specifically at FAA. Now, that goal is supported by ensuring the workforce here has the training, tools, systems, and the financial accountability required for the next-gen transformation. They're also facing challenges securing their cyber infrastructure to protect those sensitive systems and data. FAA is implementing an administration-wide approach to cloud computing, which is being headed up by the Air Traffic Organization, or ATO. They have plans to move their email to the cloud. They're currently in source selection for a service provider on that effort, and they're also pursuing cloud technology to optimize data center performance and to provide on-demand web content delivery to the flying public, which is pretty cool. Now, in general, most of these agencies are looking for solutions that cut down on cost, increase return on investment, and make their workforces more efficient. And to that end, FAA launched a pilot program in 2011 testing tablet computers across the enterprise. They handed out 1,100 iPads, and they had over 70 business cases that supported full production and deployment in 2014. According to Robert Corcoran, who heads the FAA's Architecture and Applied Technology Group, the results of the pilot showed that cost savings are very achievable here, and so we expect to see more purchases at FAA of both mobile devices and mobile device management tools moving forward.
And incidentally, at this point, in the interest of time, we're going to cut down to only presenting on 2 programs per agency, but you will have the full 5 programs in the planner for all of these agencies. So Datacom is actually one of the highest funded DME programs in transportation, and it'll replace the analog voice system that air traffic controllers currently use with a digital communication system. The FAA is hoping that this is actually going to maximize air traffic controller productivity and help it reduce operational errors and ground delays. Another element that's worth calling out here is the en route automation modernization. That's a major application development opportunity to pay attention to this year as well. Now, both of these programs are really looking at systems integration, engineering, and network testing, as well as basic implementation work throughout the course of this program.
Finally, Systems-Wide Information Management, or SWIM, and this is going to be the key information management and data sharing system for all NextGen. In the past, FAA has suffered from a very high degree of federation among its systems. It also had a lot of unique point-to-point application interfaces. SWIM enables the sharing of information between those diverse systems, which in turn allows NextGen to deliver the right information to the right people at the right time. It simplifies interface requirements to existing national airspace systems, but more importantly, it removes many of the constraints that hinder development and interoperability of new systems. Now, upcoming plans coming out of SWIM include rolling out the enterprise messaging service, implementing the flight data publication system, and also the traffic flow management publication service.